Look at your power bill, $200, maybe more. But here's what nobody tells you. Most of that power is made from rain, free water, paid-off dams. It costs almost nothing. So why does it cost you a fortune? And who's pocketing the difference? Once you see who's at the end of that wire, you can't unsee it. And it's not who you'd think. So let me show you the trick first. Because once you see the trick, the whole thing falls apart. Picture your weekly supermarket shop. You fill the trolley with the cheap stuff. Home brand milk, bread, the special on mince. You get to the checkout. And instead of ringing up each item, the till hunts down the single most expensive thing in the entire store, a little jar of imported saffron, and charges you that price. For every item in your trolley, the milk, the bread, the mince, all rung up at the saffron price, you'd walk out. You'd never shop there again, right? Well, that, almost exactly, is how the New Zealand electricity market works. And here's the catch. You can't walk out. Here's how it works. Most of our power is made by rain. Water falling through dams that were paid off decades ago, practically free. But every half hour, the price of all our power gets set by the single most expensive plant we have to switch on to meet demand. And that plant is almost always Huntly, a smoky 1970s coal and gas station south of Auckland. Huntly is the saffron of the grid. So the moment Huntly fires up, Huntly's price becomes everyone's price. The free rain power, sold to you at the coal price. The milk, charged at saffron. For much of 2025, that coal price was around $200 a megawatt hour. So a dam that spends almost nothing to spin gets paid $200 for power made of water. Nice work, if you can get it. And the power itself really is a miracle. Deep inside a fjordland mountain sits Manapuri, 800 megawatts of turbines carved into solid rock in 1971. Your grandparents fought for that lake. 264,907 New Zealanders, 1 in 10 of us, signed a petition to save it. They won. It sparked the whole environmental movement. Up the Waitaki, Benmore, our biggest earth dam, generating since 1965, down the Clutha, Roxburgh and Clyde. Across the Waikato, a chain of 8 dams going back to 1929, the Crown's old Ministry of Works built the lot with public money. It's paid off. And the rain is free. The weather doesn't send an invoice. So we own a giant, paid-off, rain-powered machine. The trolley is full of cheap, home-brand power. So why is your bill one of the priciest in the developed world? You already know. The saffron. But that's the small con. Here's the big one. Because the saffron is just a good day. When it stops raining, the saffron doesn't just cost more. It explodes. Our hydro lakes are tiny, about 5 weeks of stored power. Norway holds over 100. So in a dry year the lakes drop, the water turns precious, the companies hold it back, and they lean harder on Huntly. More saffron, more often. The price doesn't climb. It detonates. Winter 2024, we watched it live. Lowest snowpack on record. No wind, gas running short, hydro at a 6-year low. Spot prices climbed from around $300 to over $800, and on one cold May morning, $3,500 a megawatt hour, 20 times normal. Before lunch, the grid held, your wallet didn't. And here's the shocking part. We weren't out of power, the lights stayed on, so that money didn't pay for a shortage. So where on earth did it go? It flowed up the chain to 4 companies. Meridian, Contact, Genesis, Mercury. We call them gentailers, because each one does both jobs. It makes the power, and it sells it to your house. Together they make 85 to 90% of our electricity, and serve nearly 87% of homes. And here's the quiet, clever bit. They're wired differently to you. Because they're the biggest sellers and the biggest buyers in the very same market, a sky-high price largely cancels out inside their own books. The saffron spike that guts your bill. It barely gives them a tickle, a natural hedge, fully insulated, and only they have it. Try to compete without a dam, an electric kiwi, a Nova, and you've got no hedge at all. To sell power on the high street, you have to buy it wholesale from the very giants you're up against. Which is why every independent is left fighting over the scraps, 13 to 15% of the market between them. So you'd think those four are the villain. You'd be wrong. Because the real question is, who owns them? And this is the name I promised you. It isn't a faceless Aussie corporate. It isn't a Texan hedge fund. It's the government. The powers that be are, quite literally, the power that bills. Back in 2013, the Crown floated off nearly half of Meridian, Genesis and Mercury, but wrote a law locking its own stake at no less than 51%. New Zealanders were asked, in a referendum, whether to sell. We said no, 68 to 32. A pretty revolting result then, because the sales went ahead anyway. So today the Crown sits just above that line, 51.0, 51.2, 51.0%, the controlling shareholder of 3 of the 4. And the dividends come home like clockwork. In 1 year, 278 million from Meridian, 169 from Mercury, 79 from Genesis. Around $500 million, skimmed off a market where the saffron sets the price. Sit with that. The government is the majority owner, drawing $500 million a year that behaves a lot like a quiet tax, a charge you never agreed to. It's also the policymaker writing the energy rules, and through its own authority, it's the referee, owner, rulemaker, umpire, same crown, all 3 hats. So who's protecting you in that arrangement, exactly? Now, before you blow a fuse, here's the honest case for the defense, because this channel doesn't do cheap outrage. The saffron rule isn't some Kiwi stitch-up. It's a deliberate design. The highest price needed to keep the lights on sets the price, because that's the signal that tells someone to go and build more. Nearly every power market on Earth is wired this way. The dry year risk is real. Someone has to keep an expensive plant like Huntley on standby for the winter. The rain doesn't come. And the money isn't all vanishing. Those profits are rebuilding 1960s wiring, the Cook Strait cable, a whole wall of new wind and solar, and about 80 cents of every dividend dollar flows back to New Zealanders. All true, take it seriously. But here's the part that should actually make you angry. The worst recent pain on your bill isn't even the saffron. It's hiding somewhere you never looked. Power was one of the single biggest drivers of inflation last year, up over 12%. And that jump in April 2025, that wasn't the saffron at all. That was lines charges, the poles and the wires, approved by the Commerce Commission and set to keep climbing until at least 2030. So look at your actual bill one more time. Only about 38% of it is the electricity, a third, lines and the national grid. GST takes 13. Retail margin, 11. Metering, about 5. The rain-powered electrons, the actual miracle, are the small slice. You've been staring at the wrong line the whole time. So here's the answer to that May morning. You pay the most expensive plant's price for the cheapest plant's power, the saffron price for the home brand. You hand the difference up to 4 companies, and the biggest of them is owned, regulated and quietly taxed by the same government that's meant to be keeping your bill down. It isn't a crime. It isn't even a scam. It's a machine built by us decades ago doing exactly what it was wired to do. The only shocking part is who's standing at the end of the pipe, holding the live wire, and now you know his name. I'm just a Kiwi at the kitchen table, following the current to the end of the line. If this was at all illuminating, Hit subscribe and I'll keep the lights on this story.